Hey guys, welcome to week 10 of English 102, which is pretty crazy. I hope you guys are hanging in there, and you should have gotten back your writing project number 1s last week, and I was really kind of excited and proud of all of the great work that you all have done, and I'm excited to kind of see where you go with these ethnographies. So at the end of week 9, we decided on your ethnography topics to kind of narrow down to a culture that you're a part of or you're interested in learning more about. And this week, your goal is to work on your proposal for your research project. The new aspect of this second writing project is the inclusion of primary research. So you actually, as a researcher, are going to be going out and doing an interview or a survey to involve in your project. So that's what this video will sort of give you tips to do. The assignments you've got coming up for this week are the readings and discussion board 10, and then your ethnography proposal. I want to encourage everyone to please make sure that you do the reading for this week especially, because it includes examples of both the surveys and interviews you could do and a really detailed explanation of how and why you should think about your primary research. So before you kind of come to me with questions or ask other people in the class, I want you to do that reading and sort of make sure that you build an understanding for yourself. So the proposal that you have due this week is going to be similar to writing project number 1. You need to have a background and rationale to the culture you're choosing. So why this group? Are you a part of it? Are you going to be more of a non-participant observer? What research questions do you have? Your methodology is really important. I'll want to know which primary research option you're choosing and why, and then kind of what your plan of action is. If you have any references so far, and this can include really just sort of a general even definition of the community or something you've heard about it, that can go in your proposal as well. This will need to be about 2 to 3 pages, and it is due this coming Sunday. So like we've done before in collecting sources and different secondary research, we're doing that too. And we'll, be starting that next week in earnest. But I want to kind of introduce you guys to the ideas of primary research. So the big difference between primary and secondary research is who is completing the research. So primary research is conducted by you as a researcher. Secondary research is you looking at what other people have conducted. This primary research really also helps you to answer your research questions, but it's easier to get a sort of full picture of the community that you're researching when you can actually talk to people in that community. So you've got 2 options. You can do either an interview or a survey, and I'll go through both options in a minute. What you want to consider is which fits your chosen community. If you are maybe looking at Reddit users as a community, maybe a survey that you post on Reddit would be a better option than finding a user to interview. But if you are doing your research on maybe the car community in Ferguson, and you think you want to interview just one person that you know who's a part of that community, that's fine. So just think about which fits your community. Ask yourself also how you can ensure confidentiality and privacy. So if you don't, on your survey, you can make it anonymous. You don't need to require a name if it's not, necessary for you. Make sure that you're not including ages, personal information, addresses in any of your transcripts. That's just, good research in general. Ask yourself how many people you have access to and when you should schedule it. So we still have a few weeks, 3 or 4 weeks from now before your transcript and your analysis is due, but I want you to kind of be thinking ahead. So if you have someone in mind to interview, or if you're going to do a survey, maybe start early. So the first option you've got is an interview. This is going to be finding one member of your chosen community to interview. please make it not a family member. Although you may know someone personally who is involved in this community, see if they have a friend you can talk to, or see if you can find someone that's not related to you personally, because this is going to make your research less subjective. So the whole point of an interview is really to get feedback from another person by asking open-ended questions. So yes or no questions are the worst thing you can ask in an interview, because really your respondent, isn't required to give you anything but a yes or a no. So asking something like, do you like being a member of the car community? Yes, is all you would get. But if you ask questions like, what do you like about being a member of the car community? You might get something more interesting. So keep that in mind. Some tips on here to that I recommend is make sure that your respondent knows your research questions and why you're interviewing them. Make a checklist before you interview them and start with something neutral to kind of get that conversation going. Open-ended questions are really important, and don't kind of assume you already know the answer. Just let your respondent speak. The art of interviewing is tough, but the more you do it, the better you'll get. You will need to turn in a typed transcript of the interview questions and answers. So I do recommend you might record it. It doesn't have to be super long. 10 minutes is probably enough to give you enough to talk about. The other option is to do a survey. So you may have done these before. You've probably taken a survey at some point in your college career. You can use a site like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey, and I can go into that in more detail as the weeks progress. But essentially, you're going to compile a list of questions to ask to a group of people. You can email them, you can do them on paper, you can do it via social media if that's what you prefer. You want to keep it short. I would say probably no more than 10 questions. And make sure that your questions are direct, that you're asking only one at a time, and again, that you're avoiding any biased or leading questions. You might test your survey out first, send it to me to check over, try it out on your mom and see what, how she likes it. Make sure that you are rephrasing yes and no questions. So these are, there are some key things to keep in mind between both surveys and interviews. There are pros and cons to both, in all honesty. So if you have an affinity for one or the other, the choice is yours. I just ask that you have the transcripts and an analysis of it. So when you are analyzing your survey or your interview, so this is after you've done the interview, you've completed the survey, you've got your results, and you're looking at them, and now what? So when you go to analyze your results, ask yourself how your responses help you answer your research questions. Just like we did in that categorizing assignment with the sources in the chart, ask yourself where this interview or the survey fits in with the other sources that you found. What's new or interesting to you about the responses that you got? Was there anything surprising, anything you weren't expecting? And then what questions do you still have? So all of this is what you'll need to do in your analysis. Grading for the interviews and the surveys are pretty straightforward. Your results are going to be due during week 14. And basically, the chunk that I want you to pay the most attention is your analysis. Have you, truly thought about and broken apart these results? So that is all I've got for you this week. Don't forget, your proposal is due on Sunday and your discussion board is due Friday. So hopefully I will see you guys online.